Melissa Mountain here for Truthstream Media, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention really quick because it's something that I've written about before. We've probably mentioned it when we had our radio show before, and it's talked about quite a bit, and it's always in the realm of you're a conspiracy theorist if you talk about it. But it's the HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which they have on the ground up in Alaska. Looks like this up here. There's a picture of it. But they also have other versions of it. They have giant floating platform versions. So by far, this is not the only version of HAARP that exists. But it's always in the realm of conspiracy theories if you say that HAARP can be used to control the weather. If you say that, then just like this here on the Washington Post, you're scientifically unjustifiable in saying that. And they go on to say things like it's just not powerful enough to even do that. There's no way it could possibly. HAARP does not and cannot control the weather. There you go. Frequencies are high-powered, it's not enough energy, to blah, 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 blah. And you're a conspiracy theorist if you even try to say that. Well, actually, interestingly enough, recently there was an appropriations subcommittee having to do with defense, and Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska straight up asked David Walker, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science, Technology, and Engineering, what HAARP does and if they need it, because they're talking about pulling funding, the Air Force is, and shutting it down, dismantling the one that's on the ground. The one that's on the ground in Alaska. This one up here. Not all HAARPs that exist by far at all. Because like I said before, there's these giant floating platforms, and they have those as well. They're out, platform SBX-1 Tesla-type weapons. They're just floating out in the ocean, and where they are is classified. So their location is at all times classified. You're not even supposed to know where that's at. So they have these now, and they're mobile. They even have a little plane one. I can't remember what that one's actually called off the top of my head at the moment, but it looks like a little mini space shuttle, and it flies around, and it has the same capability. So they don't even need this one here. But DARPA has actually been using it recently, and the Air Force has been using it. And she asked this guy what HAARP does, and he straight up says it manages the ionosphere. That's what it was designed to do. It was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it.
I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that the plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HAARP?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HAARP in the past. We took it over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HAARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it.
And there are still these people here saying this is scientifically unjustifiable. Even though if I go here on this history book that's posted online on nasa.gov, Meeting with the Universe, it says, some meteorologists believe that the ionospheric changes in turn influence the weather in the lower atmosphere. Bam, right there, there you go. Okay? They're saying they don't know exactly how that physical mechanism works, but that's what meteorologists believe, and they're trained to know about the weather. I'm obviously not. But going back to the earthquake that happened in Japan, Fukushima, terrible disaster, okay? These are the graphs, these are the charts that were coming out of HAARP leading up to that event. And a lot of people have pointed to these charts as saying, hey, look, right here, all the days leading up to that, then suddenly you have a steady stream of a 2.5 frequency right here, 2.5 hertz leading up to that, and then bam, you have the earthquake, and then it shuts off. And I know that these charts were taken down after that earthquake. They were taken down from the HAARP website. And so there's a lot of information about that and how that possibly affected that. I'm just showing you this because I think it's very interesting that leading up to that event, you have this HAARP frequency coming out very strong, and then suddenly earthquake in Japan shuts off, Fukushima disaster. Anyway, but then again, scientifically unjustifiable, okay? It doesn't control the weather, even though the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science, Technology, and Engineering matter-of-factly says it does, okay? He does. And this guy, this just came out today. This is a scientist who has come out to say that the massive flooding in Serbia and Bosnia recently was caused by HAARP. He said, quote, today the HAARP system was turned off. Expect earthquakes in the next several days. Abramovic, that's his name, and he said that the rain was not a normal rain that was happening there. It was as if entire swimming pools were being dumped on the land each second. He says that this is characteristic of HAARP controlling the weather. He says it seemed as if the sky had opened and a sea of water fell from it. There were not rain droplets that you would typically expect to see, and it was a designed weather pattern. And then he goes on to say, or he went on to predict, that once the HAARP system was turned off, there would be earthquakes. And 2 days after he said that, there was a 5.2 earthquake right where he said it would be. So this isn't just some, unless this guy is also a conspiracy theorist, all of these meteorologists they're talking about here in this NASA book, those are all conspiracy theorists. And apparently also the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Air Force of Science, Technology, and Engineering, who straight up says that HAARP was designed to control the ionosphere. I guess he's a conspiracy theorist as well. So, just letting you know, lots of conspiracy theorists out there about HAARP. Even the patent for HAARP says the device can be used to modify the weather. Patent number 4,686,605, filed in 1987, which straight up says that weather modification is possible by, for example, altering upper atmosphere wind patterns or altering solar absorption patterns by constructing one or more plumes of atmospheric particles which will act as a lens or focusing device. It says it right there, okay? But the point is, they still have these floating platforms. So even if they dismantle this array system, which they're talking about doing this summer, which they may or may not do, DARPA says they're finished using it, so whatever they were doing with it, but regardless, it doesn't matter because we have these giant floating platforms, we have flying versions, we have all kinds of other stuff that's going on that we probably haven't even seen. So just not having this physical, symbolic relic on land that everyone can point to doesn't mean jack, because they still have them, they're floating around everywhere. So anyway, but if you say it manipulates the weather, just so you know, that's scientifically unjustifiable and you're a conspiracy theorist.